Hello, welcome to Have a Tea with me. My name is Chris. You are watching the Lesson Jigsaw channel, and we are glad to have you with us. We are here for English language conversation practice. If you're learning English, you need to practice English, practice speaking, practice your conversation skills. We are here for you. If you look in the chat, now this is either on Facebook or on YouTube, you will see a comment with a link. If you click on that link, you can come through to the studio and you can speak live and have a conversation about whatever you prefer to talk about. So that's available for you to do, all for free and for fun, basically. Just for practice. This is good to practice. It's 12 o'clock Universal Time that we do this Monday to Friday. Now, while I'm here by myself, I'm just going to talk about whatever. But if you are here and you wish to engage in a conversation, of course, we can talk about whatever you prefer to talk about. Also, you'll see scroll running down the bottom of the page. You will see an email address, chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. That's chatonlessonjigsaw@gmail.com. If you send us an email, let us know what time zone you're in, and if there is a better time for you that you would like to practice your speaking and conversation skills, we can see if we can find another time for a live stream for you, see if we could make an arrangement to have a different time with you. Let us know what you'd like to talk about, generally some days and times when it's better for you. And like I said before, to include the time zone that you're in, because, well, I was going to say we're all in different time zones, but that can't be correct, can it? But many of us are in different time zones. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. If you're watching on the replay as well, you are more than welcome. And certainly, if you're watching on the replay, you can still, of course, add your comments and thoughts to whatever is discussed today. It's an open book. It's an open book for you to discuss whatever you'd like to practice. Maybe it's a particular situation that you need to practice. Maybe you have like an interview or a meeting, or you're having some friends that you're going to meet from a different country, and you want to be able to talk with them about certain things. You can come on here first and practice if you like to practice different ways of saying things. We can see what impression you give when you say certain things or use certain words. Remember, I guess the number one thing where we look at is that, or the first objective is that the message is received. Whatever you're trying to say, that the message is received. And then the secondary item would be things like grammar, getting that to be perfect and correct and all that sort of thing. But we want to be able to communicate first, and then we can deal with the technical aspects later. It could be that some pronunciations are not able to be understood, and so we can work on some of those. But of course, if you are sometimes with pronunciation, it can be difficult for some people to understand some things. So it depends. Some pronunciations are more important than others. If it's a key word or something, perhaps the key word could be like an unusual word or very unique for that sentence or that topic. But it could also be if we're indicating something as a negative and we can't really hear the the negative word, the way it's pronounced. Sometimes it could be the depth or the meaning of the word. So sometimes we want to have a bigger impact just from using the word, but we don't want to necessarily stress too much with the voice. And so that could be it as well. So hello to you. We are here for you. Have a Tea with Me is the name of the program. Lesson Jigsaw is the channel. We're glad to have you watching. Now, I do have a tea with me, but not as always, but as happens many times, it's still a little bit too hot for me. What is it? Maybe it's not. No, I lied to you. It is not too hot for me. It's perfectly fine. I guess it should be because I poured it quite a while ago. So I guess maybe I thought it was hotter than it was. I thought it was hotter than it was. I thought it was hotter than it was. Now, of course, here, I guess I can say two things, because I can say, but I thought it was hotter than it is, if I'm literally drinking at the time. And I can still say that because it's still not as hot. And that's probably going to be true for a long time unless I heat it up. But I could also reflect that about when I tasted it. Okay, it's like telling a story while the story is still happening in a way. Now, you will notice that if you've watched some of the other programs, I do write some sentences out and some notes. Why, maybe you ask? Well, that's just to, I guess, keep track of a few, expressions, combinations of words. It's not because perhaps if I'm talking, I'm saying anything particularly interesting. It's more because those could be interesting combinations for you to remember. And of course, I wouldn't suggest, so even though there may be, a bunch of sentences, it's probably not the best idea to have or try to use or remember so many sentences in one go. So if you come through here and you have maybe 4 or 5 sentences or expressions that you can try and use, for today or tomorrow or for the next few days, and you focus on those, that is fantastic. That is way, I say way more than enough, but it's a good amount. I would say that's a good amount. I think the last thing we want to do is bombard ourselves. I think I said this yesterday. The last thing we want to do is bombard ourselves. To bombard, if you're not sure, it's like to have many things at the same time. Maybe you've seen it, maybe like at, if you're thinking like to school or work or places like that, or you're just doing some activity and lots of things are coming at the same time. So maybe you get, 5, 6, 7 assignments at the same time for school. Or if you're at work and, you got your one manager comes and gives you something to do, and then you've got phone calls and then people coming all like in a very short space of time, and there's like more and more and more, and it's like suddenly you go from almost nothing to like a huge amount of things to do. It can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. So the point being that, if you get, 3, 4, 5 things that you focus on, that's good. And of course, if you do that, every day, let's say every day you have 3 things. That's basically 1,000 new items that you're incorporating over a year, which is a huge amount. That's a huge amount. And that means incorporating. That's why, and the focus here is using English. So yes, you can write comments, and that's practicing writing your English. And of course, you can come through, click on the link, and you can practice speaking. But the key focus here is on production. We want you to produce English, and activate the expressions that you learn or hear or see, and that sort of thing. So, but we don't want things to, as we say, we don't want things to be overwhelming, because it can be overwhelming. Also, sometimes you'll notice that I repeat sentences in different ways. Sometimes in I guess what we might call a slower way, perhaps with slower pronunciation, I would probably say. And it's just to recognize the sounds and how you could hear some of the sounds, because sometimes when different people from different places say combinations of words, they can sound different. And some things can sound faster and slower, and some things can sound like a jumble, like a mix of so many sounds, and like maybe 2 or 3 words sounds like one word. And you're going, I've never heard of that word. So, for example, when we go, the last thing we want to do is, there's not much, there's not we want to do is, which is a bit of a mission to say that individually. The last thing we want to do is, and of course, 1, 2, it's no doubt you're aware, is we often say something like wanna when we're speaking naturally. Depends if you want to, what we want to emphasize, of course. If you're saying something like, no, I don't want to. Okay, maybe you say each word individually, but when it's, let's say, not the most important part, and of course you could argue, say, oh, I don't wanna. You'll have that as well, of course. So I mean, you'll find, I guess, examples of well, almost anything. But just to highlight the different sound combinations that you could get, some of them anyway. Of course, I don't know, and I won't know all of them, but certainly it's to get some awareness. So when you're listening to those sentences, hopefully over time, it gets a little bit easier and you can get more accustomed to different people. That's, of course, why it's good to sometimes watch shows and programs with subtitles. So you watch it with the subtitles and you're listening to how quickly they say things in some shows. And then, of course, you can repeat with them and you can see the speed that they're saying some of the sentences and phrases and word combinations together. So like we were just saying there, with we want to do is, and then we have bombard ourselves, not bombard ourselves, bombard ourselves. The last thing we want to do is bombard ourselves. Now, I could understand if you go, we want to do is bombard ourselves. What is we want to do is bombard ourselves. We want to do is bombard ourselves. And it's of course very understandable to not know what that is. So that's the reason to highlight that. And like we mentioned before, the main point is to have conversation and to get the message across. That's the primary goal. And then after that is things like grammar. So as long as the correct message is getting across. And of course, the responsibility is, let's say two ways. It's the listener's responsibility to try and listen, but it's also the speaker's responsibility to try and convey that message in a good way. And part of that is, let's say, the vocabulary of words that are used. And another part is the speed that they're talking and the pronunciation that they use. Let's say the speed of the pronunciation that they use. And so sometimes for some audiences or some people, things will need to be slowed down or paraphrased. We may need to paraphrase. We may need to paraphrase or put things in other words. As an example, so it's certainly, I wonder if paraphrase is the same in many languages. I think it possibly could be. I'm not sure about the para. I think phrase is similar in some languages. I'm not sure para. Maybe para is the more common part there. Okay, so just a reminder, this is an English language conversation practice session. This show is called Have a Tea with Me. This channel is Lesson Jigsaw. We are here every day, Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time. All you need to do if you wish to participate is click on the link that's in the comments in YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching on Twitter, unfortunately, there's no link that you can click there. That message doesn't come through, but certainly if you jump onto YouTube or onto Facebook, you will see that link, and you can, as I say, click on it and you can come through and chat to us. And of course, you'll see the email scrolling across the bottom. Chat on lessonjigsaw@gmail.com. Chat on lessonjigsaw@gmail.com. If you send us an email, let us know what time is, if there is a better time for you that you'd like to participate. Let us know where you are, your time zone, what you like to talk about, and some days and times and that are better for you. And we can see if we can arrange a mutual time that was good for both of us, and then have a chat or do a live stream through that. So that's all available to you. Now, as we often like to do here, we often like to use an image or text as a type of stimulus for conversation to talk about things. And when we do that, I like to suggest, when you think about, what can I say? And perhaps apart from the obvious, what can we say? And I guess we need to start with the obvious, and then we move on. But you think of the question words, so think of who, what, when, where, why, how, and any other sort of questions you may think of. And then as you get the basic answers, you can dive deeper into whatever the situation may be. Now, of course, in these situations, we're inventing the situation, discussion, the topic, and we're letting it flow from there. Of course, in real life, perhaps you need to be more accurate if it's a real thing that you're talking about. So it's, I guess, slightly different, but in essence, you would need to do the same thing. You may not necessarily be thinking, what are the question words? But when you explain something, you're always, I would argue, you're always answering a question of some sort when you're explaining something. And then when someone hasn't understood that message or received that message, or they need more information or clarification, that's when they ask other questions. And sometimes you may go, oh, I already mentioned that. So it's, perhaps the person wasn't listening or it wasn't clear enough for that person. So in case you're wondering, I am having a combination of water and tea just to replenish the throat, or soothe the throat. To soothe the throat. To soothe the throat. So to make it feel more, I guess, relaxed and comfortable. It's to soothe. I guess if there could be pain or irritation, you could say, to reduce pain or irritation somewhere, just to soothe. That's quite often why we have medicines of different sorts, if it's like a pharmaceutical one or a natural type of medicine, and things like when we have, I don't know, if we're sick, we have something like maybe chicken soup. It's very common to soothe the body, or a cup of tea or a nice warm drink can soothe the throat. It's not particularly harsh compared to if you have a really cold drink that may not be so soothing. Okay, moving back, let's have a look at this photo. So what is happening in this photo? Okay, so obviously we've got a couple of kids here. They could be twins, don't you think? What do you think? I think it's hard for me to tell, but I think they could be twins. They could be twins. I think it's a pretty good guess, but I could be wrong, of course. It could be like there's a year difference between them, but they sort of seem similar. I guess if they were standing up and they had a similar height, it would be more obvious if they had a similar height, so how tall they are. Now, where are they? Now, this picture is very clean, isn't it? This is a very, very clean picture. I would suggest this is not a real environment that these kids live in. Or it could be. Maybe they did a big cleanup and then they brought out some toys afterwards for the photo. But it looks particularly clean. This is a crazy clean photo. So we do have, it's interesting, and I think it's clearly not real because obviously it just looks a little bit too posed, is one thing. And the other thing is, well, I sort of actually like the way the fireplace is done there. I think they would call that something like a faux fireplace. I think that's possible to say that. Don't like that with the spell check. But I think you could have a faux fireplace. I think that's because if I search faux fireplace, okay, it's a real thing. It's not just something I've invented today. Okay, good, good to know. Faux meaning not real. Looks real but isn't real is faux. You also have things like faux. I guess the other more common thing you see is like faux fur. Like for jackets, or for skins, for bags and shoes and that sort of stuff. So instead of having to kill the animal for their skin, they use a, I guess, synthetic material, man-made material, to create the bag or the dress or the jacket or whatever it is. Okay, so, and I guess the other, because we see this sort of thing now, is they don't call it, I don't think they call it faux meats, but it's sort of like when you see the burgers that are like a sort of like a pretend meat. You can always have burgers like the lentil or sweet potato or other stuff, or mushroom, I guess it's common. But now, of course, we have the pretend meat ones. But I don't think we call them faux meat. Or do we? I'm not sure. But I'm not aware of that. But it's the same thing, essentially. So this is a pretend fireplace. On the right there, a white fireplace with, now I'm assuming it's perhaps around a festive time of some sort, because there are presents inside the fireplace. Presents along with some, looks like some flowers, and also maybe like a little, what do you call that, like a lantern, I guess, or a holder where they put in a candle, so they can turn off the lights and shine the candle in the fireplace. I guess with the holder and the lantern in the fireplace, that makes it not dangerous, because the fire is not going to spread, because it's contained there. I guess that's the safety measure there, because with those presents there, could be a bit dangerous. And if you look sort of like in the middle of the picture, you see a kid standing up, and behind him. Hello, Sonia, how are you going? Hope you're having a good day. How's it all going with you, Sonia? I'm doing well. Happy as Larry, as they say. But you'll see some shelves. So yeah, between the kid in the middle and the fireplace, some shelves. And the bottom shelf, looks to be some different toys, some like stuffed toys. Start with that up a bit. So some stuffed toys and dolls, what it seems to be in that fireplace. Well, not in the fireplace, on that shelf. Good to hear you're fine, Sonia. That's very good. Always good to have a fine start to the day. It's the way. So there are some stuffed dolls or teddy bears, I guess, is I can't tell completely, but certainly in the second shelf from the bottom. Second shelf from the bottom, there looks to be a teddy bear. But the key reason why I think this is a really posed photo is if you look at the third shelf from the bottom, and maybe that's the first, second, third, fourth from the top, but third from the bottom, third shelf from the bottom, you'll see a picture frame with no photo. But for me anyway, it doesn't appear to be a photo. It looks like that picture frame where they've just got some text or something, so like add photo here or something like that. So it's an empty picture frame. So I think it's very much a posed photo. So the first clue was that this room with two kids playing is incredibly tidy. And the second clue is the picture frame has no picture. So that makes me think this is not a real photo. Well, it's a real photo, but not a real situation. But I think what is interesting is the activities the kids are doing. I don't know about you. I don't know. I guess I'm in that age group where I can be old-fashioned, or be considered to be old-fashioned. But I certainly like when I see people, like kids and whoever, playing with non-electronic toys. What do you think? I certainly think it's a really nice thing. I mean, I guess you can have electronic toys where you can have creativity still, but I don't know. I think there's more creativity in the sense that, like here, you've got the building blocks. So you're building different contraptions and constructions. And it's using the imagination for that, but also whatever materials they have can be used for a game of sorts or a contest of sorts. And then the process of going through creating that game or contest, thinking of the rules, how it's played, how you determine who the winner is, and that sort of thing. I think is I think it's quite a nice thing to see and should be encouraged. I don't know. Did you play with building blocks when you were growing up? I remember for me, some of the fun was mixing the types of building blocks, because you would have like different sort of sets. I guess Lego is the obvious one that most people know, and I assume Lego is around the world. I'm pretty sure I've seen Lego almost everywhere, not consciously, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Lego things. But then yes, like, so you're mixing the different, you could have different styles. Sometimes you have like, different toys where they include some blocks, and then you try and add on different pieces to see what could work. I think that's a good activity. And then of course, like you see the like the kids standing up, you make a, like we were saying before, a contraption. Like that word, it's going to make a contraption. Oh, okay, contraption of some sort. And we say of some sort because maybe we don't really know what it is. And so we're just trying to describe it. So I think in this case, it looks like it's some type of weapon. It could be some type of, like you might find in Star Wars or something. Let's see what Sonia's saying. So they are twin brothers. They're playing with some toys. Absolutely. They're in a scene. They're in a scene which is prepared for taking photos, or to take photos. For taking or to take. But yeah, so they're in a scene which is prepared for taking some photos. Okay, they're modeling for publicity of toys. Okay, I didn't think of that. Well, that's nice. So it could be for some advertisements. That's a nice idea, Sonia. I like that. Thank you. Now that of course poses other questions. Is how like when you look at, I think you see this more in America, as in the United States of America, than anything else. But I could be wrong. It might be in other places as well. But you know, when you see the I don't know, the different competitions that they have, and it seems like some parents I know, really sort of pushing their kids into things like acting and doing sort of, you know, photo shoots for different sort of commercials and that sort of thing. And I wonder, you know, how much is too much? How much is too much? I'm going to write this down actually, because it's how much is too much? And of course, we're thinking of like for kids. Yeah. So to be in let's say in the spotlight. To be in the spotlight, how much is too much? And this is a good way of highlighting as well, just as a site to probably thinking, oh, okay, so we're doing conversation, but you're talking grammar. What are you doing that for, Chris? But anyway, because I think this is a common thing that comes up, because we sometimes there's confusion where people use to with double O as opposed to saying a lot. So it's like if you say, for example, there's or let's talk about much is uncountable, yeah? But let's use an example with many. So if you say there are too many people, or you say there are a lot of people. So a lot of people, meaning that there's a large number, and you're just sort of stating a fact. If you say there are too many people, you're giving an opinion. So you're saying it would be better if there are less people in the room, or whatever the example was. And so that's the same idea. So that example was giving an opinion, and this question is about opinion as well. So how much is too much? So too much activity, or too much publicity, or too much pushing from the parents to be for the kids to be going to different I guess castings and that sort of thing. So I don't know, so I guess yes, that's the question. So how much is too much is like, what is the level where it should be less, is the too much. That's certainly diving deeper into the photo than just here's a couple of kids playing with toys. I guess that's where we can get deeper into conversation with those things. That said, so can I get that down as well, because I like that. That said, so I'm going to introduce an idea against that. Okay, so look what Sonia's saying. I saw on TV this situation. I consider that this kind of parent tries to live through their kids, and many of them do not have limits. Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? Yeah, they don't have limits, because I guess the parents are thinking, oh, this is so much fun. We can continue. This is like I can see my kids having fun. Let's do more. But it's sometimes then I guess the kid can be, you know, trying to make the parent happy, that sort of thing. Yeah. So the children could be psychologically damaged for these actions. Yeah, or this action, either way. Yeah, absolutely. It could be. And I guess it also depends on how big it is. So if it's maybe just a like for a toy catalog or something, so they do like, because I guess in with many things that we do just in life, we want to try different experiences and have different experiences. So maybe for the child, it can be good to have an experience like that, just to see, something different, and perhaps it's an opportunity that won't come along later. And if we talk about, education, which we have done sometimes, and we talk about what kids should study, and be aware of, and things that can prepare them for life, perhaps seeing that sort of thing, or behind the scenes, if you like, similar to I don't know, at school, if this happened to you, like where you go to a newspaper and you see how a newspaper is made, or you go to a restaurant and they take you like through the kitchen and walk you around the kitchen, or if you're lucky enough to fly somewhere, maybe these days I'm not so sure, but in the past, you're able to go up to the cockpit and look inside the cockpit. Maybe these days only like when you're actually boarding the plane or leaving the plane, maybe they might show, not during the flight. Or you go to maybe the police station or the ambulance or the fire brigade to see, again, behind the scenes. To see behind the scenes. So I guess what you don't normally see and to get more of an idea of what they do, an appreciation of what they do. And I guess with those things, it can spark an interest, or it can also just give awareness. So to spark interest, create interest, or to give awareness. So awareness, just to know about something. And I guess that's the possibility. And so with with a kid doing something like I don't know, photos for a catalog or something, it could be an interesting experience and a story to tell at different times, and they can then have a perspective, and maybe they get like a little bit of money or something. So instead of like most of the other kids doing odd jobs, to get some pocket money, they're actually doing a job of sorts, albeit part-time. I guess that's the other side. So the question is then, how much? So like we were saying, how much is too much? So if it was just doing like one, and how big it is. So if it's like for a catalog, maybe it's just like a very local thing, or it could be across the country, or it could be something like TV commercials. And then of course you got the other side, and maybe this is what you were talking about here, Sonia. It's like when it gets into things then like beauty pageants and that sort of thing. I guess that then you sort of start going down a more, I don't know, potentially unpleasant road, where everything is just about their looks and appearance and that sort of thing. And so perhaps for some kids, they lose some of the academic incentive for that sort of thing. It's like when they have on different TV shows. This is, I guess, a step up or a level up. You know, when they start doing, or a kid does like a TV show, particularly if it's running for a long time. I know in Australia they've had like some kids where they've had them grow up on screen, we would say. So we say some kids grow up on screen. Or we could also say they grow up before our eyes. Before our eyes, so we can watch them. We can watch them grow. And again, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily. Maybe it gives them opportunity to different types of education, because I think lots of the TV shows. I remember. I'm not sure if you ever saw the TV show. I'm not sure how far this went around the world. Remember the TV show called The Wonder Years? That was in the 80s, perhaps late 80s, mid to late 80s. So it was like the story of families and kids in the 60s, I think. 60s, maybe early 70s. I think 60s though, mainly. And so, but I saw this thing with a couple of the stars afterwards. They had like a reunion, and they were saying how much homework they had to do, or how much schoolwork they had to do while they're on the set. So while they're doing the recordings, and then they have to go, and they have to do like 3-4 hours of classes, then go back to the set, and then come back and do more classes and more homework. And one of them, Danica McKellar, is a mathematician. She's, I don't know how many books now, but a whole bunch of books for teaching kids about maths and different things with maths. So it's not as if she missed out on any education. And I wonder if perhaps it could just be natural ability that was there, but also perhaps it was enhanced because she had access to some tutors, and it was like perhaps like a more one-on-one or one-on-two or one-on-three situation, rather than a lot of schools where it's, you know, you have like 20, 30, 40 kids in a classroom. So yes, it will depend on the way in which adults manage the situation in which the kids are working. So they must avoid stress situations for kids, and free time to play, or free time and play, I guess, is very important. Absolutely. And so do they, do they have that, I guess, is the question. So hopefully they do. Hopefully they do have that. And I think that would certainly be, I don't know, I would assume if they're if it's a regular thing, like a TV show, there would, I don't know, I imagine there would be like some child welfare consultants or something like that. Child welfare I say consultants, but whatever the term may be, but someone to give advice to the people on the, in the production, how much time is suitable enough, and maybe like you mentioned before with the psychological damage, maybe they're like psychiatrists or people they can talk to or just monitor them to check everything is going okay. So it's certainly a possibility. But I guess maybe that's a more obviously extreme situation, because that doesn't happen to most people. But then I guess we're looking at things like, I guess, the glamorous sort of things, or could be termed as glamorous, maybe like with TV and that sort of stuff. But maybe you have the same things as well with different sports. Because if you have a kid who's, I don't know, identified as talented or has a particular ability of some sort. So you hear this with, I guess, football players, football, soccer players in particular. You hear this with gymnastics as well, where they, not always, but sometimes they go to a special institute, I guess, or academy, where they're focusing a lot on developing the skills, so the sporting skills, and then also get the academic side. But I know you have to sort of wonder as well what the cost is for that of the childhood if they're taken away. Maybe it's could well be that it's more enjoyable than what it was. Who knows? There was this thing with Cristiano Ronaldo, I think, when he went to I'm not sure, some club when he was quite young, and then he moved to Manchester United. I think he was a little bit older then already, like late teens perhaps. I think, I'm not sure. But just talking through the process and how difficult it was to get away, and perhaps needing to be insulated against everything else. He was then able to focus on what he enjoyed the most. But then the question is, like Sonia, like you were saying here. So it's like, if it's the parents are living their lives through the kids, I guess the question, how often is the question asked to the kids? Do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this? And is it comfortable? Like, if you don't want to do it, can you stop? And I think of that as now, as an Australian. There's the number one tennis player from Australia, and she just retired. This is the second time she's retired. So the first time it was just to get a break from the sport, and she went to do other things, play other sports. And then she found the interest again, and then went back, and it was a great break, because then she succeeded, she was refreshed, and then she's won 3 Grand Slam tournaments and been very successful. Number one for over 2 years. But again, she's stopping. She's number one, and she's stopping. And so she's an adult, she's 25, but I wonder if that's something that, if you're a kid, if they have that ability to say that, or are allowed to say that, I guess is the other question. So sadly, it's very common to hear some stories of famous people who began their career when they were a child, when they were children. And many of them talk about some experience which makes them feel terrible. Yeah. And I guess you hear this with uh, uh, gymnasts and swimmers. I've sort of seen reports of this more than other sports, but particularly gymnasts and swimmers, where the pressure for them to keep a particular weight or not go above a particular weight is very high, and let's say the manner and the approach of the coaches doesn't seem to be, what's the word, human, so it's more focused on basically they're focusing on the statistic. You need to be this weight to get that result, not considering that part of the effort that's needed is the mental effort and feeling that you can do this and to enjoy doing something. And so I don't know, there's sometimes there seems to be some pressure against the coaches to be more relaxed and stuff, but I don't know, a lot of these sporting bodies, I say, okay, so sporting body is like the sporting body is like the organization that controls the sport or runs the sport. So with football, you have different ones for different areas. But for example, for football, FIFA would be for the world, for the earth. Yeah. And then, like you see, if you ever see Champions League, you'll see UEFA Champions League. So UEFA is the European sporting body for football, and you'll have, I think for swimming, I think it's FINA, FINA, and so you have these different sporting bodies that control and do the rules for the sports. They're I'm pretty sure they're also the bodies that say which drugs and medicines are permitted and not permitted. So that's when they have the doping tests. They've determined which ones are acceptable or not acceptable. But they don't seem to really be too concerned about the younger generations coming through. They look at the result, and then it's like, they get the gold medal, or they get the prize or the trophy, or they get onto a famous team or something, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, all the hard effort and all the tough times, it's come through for a reward and that sort of thing. But you wonder, because we look at the reward as going, oh, okay, they got that medal, and then however they are, maybe they're completely okay and no problem, and that's great if they are. But for that one medal, how many, maybe this is not exactly the right way to say this, but how many people were sacrificed? How many kids, like younger swimmers or younger gymnasts or younger footballers or whatever, were sacrificed by whatever methods they're using, psychological or physical or whatever. how many, had effects that, harm them potentially for the rest of their lives. So out of a group, maybe you have, I don't know the numbers at all. I'm going to make a guess. Maybe you have out of 10 that has all this, I don't know, abuse and pressure and worry and stress that they have to go through. And out of that group of 10, one succeeds, and how you classify succeeds. And I think the numbers, I say 1 in 10 is probably going to be more like 1 in 100. If you look at all because I guess we're looking at more towards the elite, but then to get to the elite, you have other coaches trying to do the pressure as well, from even like regional clubs and small clubs and stuff. Thinking, I've seen that on TV from that coach, I'm going to follow the same thing. So for that one success, and we go, oh, okay, that person's successful, all that hard effort. But how many people were penalized through the methods? So many times adults forget that they are working with little children, absolutely. And children who are in a process of psychological development, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, we can never say all or anything like that, but I don't know, sometimes, it's hard to know, but sometimes you do see the way some coaches or trainers, the way that they talk to or approach some of these kids, like the manner that, like, shouting at them and saying things that are hurtful. And okay, they're trying to get a reaction. I think the same thing with, with like when you see, particularly like football coaches, I guess is sometimes the most obvious ones, but you see it like with, tennis players as well. You see it with football players when they're on the field and they're surrounding the referee. You see it in games like baseball, when the coaches or the manager or sometimes the players are getting like in the face, like so close to the umpire. And it's like, okay, be passionate about your sport, but there's a lot of disrespect shown. And because these people are the stars or the talent, they get away with it. And I wonder if, like, even though the children can grow up to be the stars, I wonder if the coaches think they are the stars, and that's why they can, give their abuse. And perhaps for them, they don't think of it as abuse. They think of it as motivation. They think of it as motivation. And so, it's how do you change that perspective? And that's when I go back to the sporting body. Is the sporting body to have some good evaluation of the coaches and the trainers and the standards. And there's never going to be a perfect system with anything, but probably this is the same with everything. More can be done. More can always be done. This is a perfect sentence, Sonia. This is absolutely fantastic. Well done. I'm actually going to go back because there was one thing I saw before. There are a couple of minor things here and there. I'm just going to point this one out because this is sort of quite common. just to note. Okay, so in the final sentence here, they must to avoid. Normally in English, they have, you know how they have rules. There are rules for this and rules for that. And there's always an exception to the rule. So it's like, well, okay, in 90% of situations you say this, but other times it could be this, this, and this. This is one thing. This is one thing where the rule is 100%. There's no other time. Now, when you're using a modal verb or the modal verb must, never use to. When you're actually saying the thing that must be done. So the verb that follows must, always without to. Always without to. So they must avoid, or they must read, or they must follow, or they must listen, or they must drive, or they must whatever. And I just say that because that's an easy one to remember, because it's always. So there are a lot of rules with exceptions in English, but that's one we can try and lock in. So what's the sentence? We must avoid stressful situations. He must, what is this pronoun? Oops. They must read the book or whatever. I must prepare the journal, whatever. So must, verb, out. Okay. So I saw in a game of football for children, a father who exercised a lot of pressure to his child. Okay. We'll probably say the most common with pressure is put. You put a lot of pressure on someone. To put a lot of pressure on someone, but that's okay. The little boy was 6 years old. When he played, he turned to look at his father as he was looking for approval, I guess that is. Approbation. Okay, approbation. That's a great word. This is a very, I was thinking approval, but it's yes, it's a very, very well, a formal way of approval. Okay, nice word. Excellent. That could be word for the day. So looking for approbation. He did, but I'm just saying because it's like, I just say that because it's not a word that I would commonly use, but there's nothing wrong with that word at all. But nice word. So he did not play happy and did not enjoy the game. Yeah, and that's exactly the disappointment, isn't it? That's exactly the disappointment. You want people with, I mean, we always emphasize this for kids, I guess, growing up, but for for anything, we want to. The ideal situation is for people to enjoy whatever it is they're doing, and that's not always possible with everything, of course. And then sometimes it's idealistic to think of that, and sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Think of things like work or chores or different activities and things like that. But yeah, when you see that, it's disappointing. I used to be a referee for some sports, and it was, yeah, when you see the little kids games where the encouragement is one thing, to shout encouragement, like, come on Jimmy, go go go, you can do it, stuff like that. That's great. And then when something doesn't go wrong, doesn't go right, they go, oh, better luck next time, or we can do it next time, or something like that. But yeah, a lot of times you would hear parents who would say going off at the kids. You could hear some parents going off at the kids. So to go off here, and to go off at is normally, because you normally say the person who's receiving, let's say. In this case, the kids are receiving and the parents are doing, if you like. And so the going off at is like they're getting angry at it. They're abusing is the word, but like shouting and saying, why didn't you do that? You should have done that. Why didn't you see him? And all that sort of stuff. So they're going off at the kids, and the kids are going, oh, I don't know. It's like, I laugh, but it's distressing. It's a distressing thing to see. And certainly that was, and that's hard to watch, because it's like, what do you do? What can you do in those situations? You have the people from the club around. You have officials from the organizing body, let's say, or the sporting body in a local context, and then you also have sort of like your superiors in terms of refereeing and umpiring there as well, and everyone, or it's like it just seems to be so standard. Maybe that's what it is. It's so standard. They do nothing, or just turn a blind eye. I guess the turn a blind eye is like to ignore it or pretend not to see it or hear it or whatever it is. And I guess the follow-up question from all of that is like, when does it become acceptable? Obviously, these parents are thinking it's acceptable, but when does it become acceptable? So let's say we say, okay, so 6 years old, they need to be just playing for fun and that sort of thing. Okay, I would probably say most people would agree with that. So 6 years old, so people are in primary school, and they're starting to have, when you get to years, I guess I'm not sure about how all the years are structured in different countries, but say in Australia, would have years 5 and particularly year 6 at primary school. So you're about 11-ish, maybe 12, and you're doing some big exams. I mean, there are lots of big exams these days, but you have like a big exam, the final exams before you go to a higher school or secondary. education. And so they're starting to get pressure. So, I mean, at what point, at least, not, I guess, I'm not talking here just in the football context or the sporting context, but at what point should pressure be real for children growing up? You know, and because it's hard to adjust pressure, isn't it? Or is it? I don't know. Because if you say this is an important test, or like if everything you're getting is an evaluation, you're getting a score, everything, and you're saying the top of the list and the bottom of the list, number one and number whatever. So at what point is the pressure acceptable, and how does it build? And so because they're going to have pressure when they get into secondary school, there's going to be pressure. Maybe not always at the beginning, but certainly towards the end of secondary school, when people are looking to go into perhaps university or go for jobs and that sort of thing, there's going to be pressure, and I guess there needs to be that pressure, because if there's pressure, you're feeling the importance of something to a degree, but it's important. So at what point do we permit pressure? And then if you translate that, so that's, I guess, a formal context if you're talking about a school. But then if we go back to the sporting context, when can the pressure be there? When, like, should it be a case of you have two types of leagues? You have the fun league where they're just playing for fun, and a serious league. So you have two different groups. So one just playing for fun, another one playing seriously. Or maybe that's what people do anyway, isn't it? When they just kick the ball around in the park, and then they join a club. That is the serious league, isn't it? But I don't know. At what age do they, if you think of things then like penalty shootouts, in sporting events, or any sort of thing where there's like, you play the game and then you find a way to get a result when there was like a draw and there's like a final and we need to get a result somehow. So however that's worked out. So I don't know, maybe that's too difficult a question to answer, and I guess it's one of those things where it's not one size fits all. It's not one size fits all. I guess different people, as is normal in the world, different people can handle different pressure or different amounts of pressure. Everything has to be adjusted. I guess you can't say, when they get 15, because I guess the obvious thing is to say, when they're adults. But is it when they're adults, as in 18, I guess? That's too late then, isn't it? So then, 16 or 15 or 14. But then, obviously, you have, we all know going through school that, in every year, you'll have different degrees of maturity and ability, whatever, with different things. So it's not, you can't apply everything across the board. Look at that expression. You can't apply everything across the board. So across the board meaning for everything, for everyone, across the board. It's I think very much it's like when we were talking about in a general sense, like schooling and subjects and that sort of stuff. It has to be individual. And ideally you have the support mechanism to say, yeah, if you want to continue, it's a pressure situation there. If you want to continue, if it's okay with you, continue. If you don't, come back. That sort of thing. From my point of view, I don't like to put pressure on my children. Obviously, I pay attention to their efforts when they are studying, but the results indicate what they can really learn. And many times, the nerves don't let them demonstrate all their knowledge. Yeah. The nerves do get to a lot of people, adults and children. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think we talked about this before, but I have this discussion with other teachers quite a lot sometimes, in terms of, well, teachers have, some teachers have this concept of, it's like, why don't they know this? I taught this. Or no, so they don't say I taught it, they say they learned this last year, or they learned this 2 weeks ago. And the concept being that because they said something, the other person, it's locked into their brain immediately. And it's, for me, I'm like, no, you taught it, but they didn't learn it. They didn't get it. And all that means is, as the teacher, and you can't do everything, but you just have to find, see if there's a different path. And maybe it takes 5, 10, 15 different ways, or maybe it's just they're not getting that connection for that concept with you, and they need to hear it from someone else, and with someone else it clicks just like that. And maybe that's the case. So if they failed, I say that they must try again. They have to pay attention to their mistakes and learn from them and try to support them. I think certainly, yes, it's very important to learn from always to learn from mistakes, but also to appreciate the gains. I always think there has to be balanced to appreciate the steps of progress. So, and it's the same with learning a language. There's and it's part of it is the perspective about what's important. But I mean, if I said to students, remember, I taught this to you 100 times, and it's I can't say that. It's like it really, it's like we talked about it, whatever the concept is, and then sometimes it doesn't lock in, and then it's like I say with other things. So you have to make a valuation of is the thing that is the mistake, is the thing where they failed, is that something that's vital? You know, is that the important thing that's going to make the difference? Or is it the icing on the cake, as we say? We don't normally say it exactly in this way, this sort of thing, but normally you say it for a positive thing. But you know what I mean? Is the fact that they do it 100% correct, the icing on the cake, but getting whatever other percent right, or the endeavor? Maybe the endeavor is more important. Maybe the fact that they keep trying is more important than actually always accomplishing. But certainly it's probably more than the actual activity. It's that concept that you're trying to give them, that, you know, if something goes wrong, or you fail, or you make a mistake, give it another go. Give it another go. See what happens. If you do something in exactly the same way, is it going to be different? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you need to adjust some things. And then, so, you know, learning about how to approach things, and the attitude to have when things don't always go right, or we can have the best plan and things don't go to plan for whatever reason. So I think, like, what you're showing here is it's building resilience. Build resilience. Hey, all right, spelled that right. Yeah, so it's building resilience in them. So, you know, one little thing going wrong isn't going to be a disaster. Learning is a personal process, and each person has his or her time. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the same thing if we're talking about at school, if we're talking about science, maths, languages, football, you know, sports, whatever. So yes, sometimes you need guidance, but how that guidance is given is what we're saying, in the attitudes that we're showing and we're giving. So I think it's like we say, isn't it? We need to encourage resilience, determination, and the strength to keep going and to try again, for different things. But you know, giving that space for failure. And I guess it would be a problem, wouldn't it, if they weren't failing, or they weren't making mistakes, or having some issues. It wouldn't be preparing them well either, would it? Because if everything they were doing was right all the time, that's probably a bigger problem when they get to adults than the other way around. I guess it's like everything. We want a medium, a good moderation between the between the two. So not overwhelmingly full of mistakes, but not overwhelmingly correct either. But with the ability to develop and recognize their own mistakes. Hopefully, that would be a good thing. Okay, we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you very much for your participation. That was a quite interesting chat there. It's all stemming from a couple of twins posing for a photo in a fake, what do you call that, display or something, perhaps for some toys and that sort of thing. Interesting how conversations develop. Okay, so just a reminder, this is Have a Tea with me on the Lesson Jigsaw channel. We are here every day, Monday to Friday at 12 o'clock Universal Time. All you need to do is to click on the link and you can participate in the show, come through to the studio and speak. Thank you very much, Sonia. Good to see you here again. Thank you for your participation. And don't forget as well, you will see the email address scrolling across the bottom, but there it is as well. Chat on lessonjigsaw@gmail.com. If you prefer another time, you're thinking 12 o'clock Universal Time, not good for me, send us an email and let us know what time zone you're in, what you like to talk about, and also the days and times in general that you prefer to speak. And we'll see if we can find a time to live stream with you to get some practice in. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, your participation. Thanks for liking, following, all that sort of stuff. And we will see you next time. Take care, stay safe, stay happy.